Okay, now we are going to look at other options for the Liquibase, such as MAVEN and integrating Liquibase directly into our projects. So I'm not going to cover all the projects. I'm going to cover the Springboard project. So first of all, let's check that how we can integrate Liquibase with MAVEN. So right now I'm in liquibase.org, the homepage for the Liquibase. Click on the documentation. And here you see the tools and integrations, and here you go to the MAVEN. So the first option is installing the MAVEN. On my local box I already installed the MAVEN, so I'm directly moving into the next one, Liquibase and the MAVEN. So as part of it, here we need to create a MAVEN project, and then we need to add required dependencies for our project. So for now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a Springboard project, which is a simpler and easier to use. So I'm going to set it up, and then we will be integrating Liquibase library into a MAVEN project. I have opened the STS application and I'm starting the project. Let's start creating a new Springboard project. So name is Liquibase Spring Demo, and I'm using the MAVEN and Java version. Remaining is exactly the same. And the important thing is here we are going to use H2 database and we are going to use Spring Data JPA. These two are enough for our demo purposes, but let me put web so we can check the H2 in-memory database from the application itself. So I'm using the Spring Web. Spring is just to access the H2 database in this scenario. Okay, let's start. The build is going on, downloading the dependencies and everything is going. So let's open the pom.xml. In the pom.xml, we have parent and we have the group ID artifact, name, descriptions, properties and dependencies. As part of the dependency, we have the JPA dependency and the web and H2 database. Along with that, we have the starter test. Of course, we are not going to run the test. And as part of the plugins, we have the Springboard MAVEN plugin, which is a default one. So as part of the source code, we have simple class with main method, and it is annotated with the Springboard application. So this starts the Springboard application. So this is the Springboard project, very high level we have discussed. Now let's go to our pom.xml and configure Liquibase. So first of all, what we need is Liquibase core. So add the dependency. Group ID is arg.liquibase, and then artifact ID is Liquibase core. Format it. Now we have included the Liquibase core into the project. Now let's go back to our documentation. In our documentation, we have created the Liquibase project and we need to add the plugin. So after adding the Liquibase dependency, we need to go with the plugin. In the plugin, we have the Liquibase MAVEN plugin, where we can configure the URL, the change request file, everything. So let's copy the plugin, and I'm copying the plugin into the plugins. Reformat it. Here you can go through the documentation, configuring the Liquibase and MAVEN file, what are the additional properties or the configurations that are available. But for our case, which is a simple one, so we're going to configure same. We have configured the plugin, and then we are going to configure the configuration that with the change file name, URL, username, password, and then we will be using MAVEN Liquibase update URL. So as part of the configuration, let's copy the configuration. Here is the DB user. So I'm putting DB user as a DB user and DB password as a DB password and the URL. So it will be JDBC. Here I configure the JDBC URL and the changelog as changelog SQL, which we will be creating soon. So let's create the file changelog.sql. Go back here. We are referring exactly at the POM file, so we need to configure next to the POM file. Now go here, Liquibase SQL. The file has been created. Let's open it. Here, let's copy the SQL. So it is in the SQL here. So let's copy. This is for the testing purpose. We'll be using XML format for our learnings, but this is for just for testing purpose. So let's create another change log. Base S2 and table S2. Save it. Format and save all the files. Okay, here it says that we can remove the version. So let's remove the version. Format it and save it. Now we need to issue the command of, first of all, we'll run the validate. So let's run as a build. Okay, and as part of the profiles, we don't have any profiles. So let's remove the profile. And here the goal is Liquibase validate. So I'm running the validate. So if we see it, the validate has been successfully run and it says that one, no errors found. Okay, now let's run in an update. So I have already configured it as an update. So here I'm calling the Liquibase update. So with the Liquibase update, it's going to apply all the changes as part of the changelog SQL. So let's maximize it. So it has successfully executed the changelog SQL version 1 and version 2. So it is successfully working, but we can't verify the details because we configured as in memory. So let's change them as file. So I'm creating as a, in the current directory, creating a DB and then all the changes into a Liquibase. So let's save the file and rerun. Now it is successfully done. And if we check the file, here is the database. The H2 database has executed and saved all the details into a file system. So if we refresh our project, we can see a DB folder and inside it we have the Liquibase DB files. So we can verify them using the any other tools. Right now I'm using a DB viewer. I have opened the DB viewer and I'm configuring the H2 database. I'm saying H2 embedded v2 and I'm providing the URL over here. So as part of the file, so first of all, we can open with this one. So that way it is easier to correct the path. So I have given the file and let's go back to the URL because here it has MV and DB. We should not have it. And the username password, let's copy from here. DB user is the user and DB password is the password. Let's configure and run the test. As test has been successful, so finish it. So as part of it, you see it, we have the changelog and changelog log tables. Along with that, we have the test and the test2. So if we check this one, the test has the test ID and test column. The tables has been created as per our changelog SQL file. So let's open. Changelog SQL, it has a test ID and test column, test and test column, and test ID is a primary key. So it has been created. So if we check the keys, we'll see the primary key also been created as we expected. So next we will be checking, instead of using the SQL file, we will be using the XML file to create the same set of tables and to insert some data directly from the POM XML. So let's create the database using the XML format instead of using SQL. So that is also very simple and straightforward. Let's create a file. Changelog.xml and go to our site and copy the basic. I'm copying here because we have the schematics that are required for our XML. So that's the reason I'm copying it from here. So let's copy it. Let's create another change set. ID is 2, author is Ranga. And here, as the table has been created, we are going to insert the data. Insert. The table name is test underscore table. And the data, the primary column is there. So here primary column is integer. So let's insert column test underscore ID as 1. And the data is test underscore column as a string. So I'm giving my name. So save it. And now we need to change our configuration instead of that to XML. Save it, and as it's a file system, it's already been created. Let's delete the old files. Now let's run the update. So if you observe it, the changelog has been successfully executed using XML. We see it here, changelog XML has been taken. So as part of it here, it has taken care of changelog set 1 and 2 as well. And that was 2 was created by us to insert the data. So here is the new row inserted into table. So let's verify the same. I have opened the DB viewer and I configured to the Liquibase. And if we see it here, we have the test table and it has data as ID as 1 and the test column having a varchar or a string as we configured in changelog XML. So let's alter a column and add one more column as a boolean. So I'm back to XML. And now let's insert the changelog change set, and ID is 3 and myself Ranga. Add column and the table name is test underscore table. And as part of the add column, we need to create column, and the column name would be age. And the default value I can set it as 0 and the type would be integer. Okay, so this is how it happens. Let's save it and rerun it one more time, and this time I'm not clearing it up because I want 1 and 2 is already part of it, and the third change needs to be updated. So let's verify the log. It has been failed because the DB connector has connected. So let's disconnect and rerun. And if we see it, successfully changelog 3 is applied. 1 and 2 is not applied. As we know, 1 and 2 is already part of the history. That's why it has not. Now let's check the test table, and if we see it, it has age column, which is a number, and in the data it is been created default value as 0 for the existing ones. And if you see the properties age, it has been set and the default value is 0. So this is how we will be running all our Liquibase commands using the MAVEN. It's not just update, we have the rollback, all commands are supported. So if we want to find out what are all the supporting goals or the commands, in this case we are giving update Liquibase colon update. So in the same manner, we have all these are supported. We can add tag, we can run the update SQL, validate, rollback count, everything, including the drop all. So that's all for now, and in the next one we will be looking at how we are going to run the Liquibase in the Spring Boot project.